Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori, and this is Africa 54. Now, Kenya's Interior Minister has ordered all refugees living in the country to return to designated camps in Dadaab and Kakuma. Joseph Lenku issued a statement on Wednesday with the directive following recent attacks and threats in the country attributed to Somali militants. But the Somali community says the order unfairly punishes innocent people. The directive could affect tens of thousands of refugees living and working outside the camps, and it's likely to be criticized by rights groups which have discouraged similar action in the past. Until now, refugees who could support themselves or were in need of specialized education or medical care had been allowed to live in urban areas. The refugees, around 1.1 million, are required to be housed at Dadaab, close to the Somali border, and at Kakuma, near Kenya's frontier with South Sudan. Well, for more insights, I'm joined by Daud Aweis of VOA's Somali service. Daud, welcome.
Thank you, Vincent.
Now, this is not the first time the Kenyan government is issuing such a directive. What is the reaction of Somali refugees in Kenya that you've been talking to?
Actually, some of the Somali refugees we talked to were very, very angry. Some of them were very expressing concern that this is going to affect innocent families living in Nairobi. There are thousands of Somali and refugees living in the urban areas like in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in other towns of Kenya, who are doing business, who are in education, who are in different sectors of lives in Nairobi. So they say that is a failure of Kenyan government to target those who are committing crimes in Kenya, and instead they are now trying to make like a total punishment to all Somalis who are living in the urban areas. And they say that they will try to talk to the Kenyan government, to the Somali government, and to the international NGOs like the human rights organizations to make sure that Kenya does not go ahead with this direction which is going to affect their lives.
Now, this is not the first time. The last time they make they made an announcement like this one, did they in any way try to implement it?
I think when such a decision was made last year, there was some intervention from the Somali government, as from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and other organizations trying to persuade the Kenyan government not to take such an action. But this time Kenya is saying that because of the increasing insecurity and actions taking place in many places, like the recent one which took place near Mombasa where a church was attacked. So now they are trying to make sure that this decision now goes ahead. And the minister, when he was issuing it, said that this is a decision that is going to be fair to everyone, a decision that's going to protect the Kenyans. So Kenya now is trying to make sure that it now implements this decision, but there are many things to do with this decision if it wants to go ahead, like the resources and all the enforcement. It seems that Kenya will need help if it wants to do such a case, because the refugees, some of them are registered and some of them are not registered. So
actually, one of the biggest challenges is how do you separate, for example, Kenyan Somalis and Somalis from Somalia? Have they given some direction as to how they're going to do that so they avoid harassing innocent people too?
That is another challenge, because these Somalis are mixed. You cannot identify a Somali from Somalia, a Somali from Kenya. The only thing that they can use to differentiate them is the identity card. Sometimes it happens that the Kenyan government is claiming some Somali refugees are also having some Kenyan IDs. So it's going to be very difficult to identify the genuine ID card holders who are Kenyans of Somali ethnic, and the other ones who are from Somalia who may be obtaining these documents through corruption or anything that is taking place in Kenya. So that's going to be another challenge. And the fear is that in the past, there were some operations targeting the Somalis or maybe the Somali nationals living in Kenya. And the target became also, and the issue also affected the Somali Kenyans. So the Kenyan government will have a daunting task to make sure that it can identify those who are the genuine refugees and those who are not.
What does the Somali government in Mogadishu want to do in relation to, in reaction to this particular directive?
There was a plan adopted by the Somali government and the Kenyan government and the United Nations about how to repatriate the Somali refugees living in Kenya, especially those living in the urban areas, to make a smooth process that will allow them to go back to their country without harassment, without any problem. But this seems to be an emergency case, and so far the Somali government has not reacted. But recently we have been talking to the Somali ambassador to Kenya. He said this was a shocking news to them, and they will try to reach the Kenyan government to make sure that they explain how they're going to implement this new direction.
Well, Daud, thank you very much. Well, Daud Aweis is a reporter with VOA's Somali service.